Thousands give offerings for new church building. PNG Power's incomplete work leaves residents fearful. And Power struggle for control of funds in Southern Highlands.
This is National EMTV News with Helen Sayer.
Good evening and thank you for joining me with Sunday's news. 6 houses at Garahu Stage 6 were left with no electricity after workmen abandoned work on a broken power line. Residents want PNG Power engineers to return and do proper maintenance. Fortunately, no one was hurt when the live wire fell to the ground.
Residents reported that work carried out earlier by responsible authorities had not been done to standards. Eyewitnesses say a snap on the tempered cable caused the lines to collapse. This has caused power disruptions, with 6 residents experiencing no electricity in the morning hours of the day.
Time stop plus 2 panis now, the dual time cutting and just put down now. Ogra power problem the 6 power pole mogra program.
A PNG Power vehicle was in the vicinity of the incident but made no attempts to speak to the affected residents. A resident says the situation is serious with a number of similar cases experienced in the past.
Because I'm lucky, I no got carry road, no got picking, no got money, walk about this have time something to put on. That's very lucky. Also, I'm like, oh, come on, must once and for all. Making good and alarm stuff also.
The public was warned to stay away from the fallen power cable. Residents blocked off the area while waiting for help. Mr. Larry says such incident must be treated gently.
The safety is important than any other thing. Life is important than any other thing. So, only thing we can make him helping community, helping something also. Just to avoid incidents or accidents, we put in something in contact.
There were no reports of injuries during the incident. A similar incident happened last year at Garahu Stage 3 with a primary school student killed.
I'm straightening something, but make sure I'm straightening once and for all. You know, go and come back and work again. So straightening more. So I mean, it's very risky. I'm looking at something risky straight.
Jack Lapava Jr., National EMTV News.
Gulf Governor Chris Haiveta wants the TB Strategic Plan 2017 to 2020 be used as a roadmap to fight the TB issues in the province. In a statement, Governor Haiveta said the Gulf Provincial Health must take the lead with the help of other stakeholders. One key agenda in the plan is to improve status of health facilities in Gulf. According to Governor Haiveta, TB has seen a decrease in cases. However, more work is needed to end the disease. The 4-year plan was launched in Kerama Town recently. The former chairman of the PNG Medical Board says there is a need for another medical school in the country. Dr. Matthias Sapuri says the current number of medical doctors is below the required rate. He said authorities must work together to establish a standalone medical institution.
Dr. Sapuri gave his opinion for the establishment of another institution where medical doctors and other health specialists can be trained. The former dean of the UPNG Medical Faculty says PNG has got more work to do in increasing the number of national doctors.
Our current medical school is producing less than 50 every year, something like 45 every year now. So we are well below. So it's a huge challenge for us.
Dr. Sapuri says despite Divine Word University and UPNG currently offering studies in this field, more effort is needed. He says the quota produced every year is below the demand as the country's population soars. Dr. Sapuri says it's not just meeting the required numbers, but qualified and credited doctors who can improve public health.
We need to start a second school, and we need time to be able to make sure that they, reach the standard to be able to produce the doctors that we need for Papua New Guinea. So it will take time.
A review was done in 2004 by different state agencies and stakeholders to address the number of doctors serving in the country. According to Sapuri, nothing has been done since then.
Since then, we have not done a major review that will tell us whether we're still up there. Recently, I'm told there was a report that came out from a short review. It shows that we were actually not meeting the current international standards. So that's a huge problem. So we have a big challenge. Our university and our school, and us as a country, and the government of PNG must recognize that we need to do a little bit more to be able to raise that bar to that level.
The country produces nearly 40 medical doctors every year. However, most do not find proper employment in the public sector.
Having the standalone university will give it an opportunity to be able to grow to the level that it should be, and to give a more focus on the overall human resource development in Papua New Guinea. So it's not going to be just only about training doctors, it'll be about training of all the cadres and expanding the training of our own specialists in Papua New Guinea to bring them to international standards.
Jack Lapava Jr., National EMTV News.
Over 1,000 members of the Tokarara Fellowship in Port Moresby held a Thanksgiving service today. It was significant as the funds raised will go towards building a new church. Various groups presented traditional dances as they brought their offerings to support the construction of the new church building.
This building has been standing for almost 40 years. It has been a fortress for prayers for many denominations, including the Anglican and United Churches. Today, the Tokarara Fellowship had a Thanksgiving service to raise funds to rebuild it.
Community hall na area ng plasta bem stabani le Pentecost Council of Churches na last time on mainland churches os sila tulle plagat Anglican, United, Catholic na Lutheran. Pihen longe mo United ok simkiro no lumu bigo hap sala Tokarara market na hola all Anglican church lumu golo hola mi pla one time United mi pla staff one time mina blong 2001 he got one bell come up number church no United movie golo half set na Lutheran stable.
The congregation of over 1,000 individuals came with their offerings, whether it was big or small. Challenged by evangelist Napoleon Lufia to give to extend God's kingdom, groups came forward with their offerings.
Why you be planting seed? But you be somewhere, long where God will come again. Suppose you be planting seed outside, long bunnies block God, but you be harvesting kai outside long bunnies block God, and you will satisfy life, do you mean?
The children's ministry moved the hearts of many as they sang a song and brought their offerings in the footsteps of their parents. This is the first project giving that the church has initiated. The second project giving will be held in August.
40 years people stop without proper church building. So, ani lo leadership lo mi dream lo lukim. Time stop dream lo lukim one permanent house mas sana.
Lilian Soperakinea, National EMTV News.
You're at Sunday's News. We'll be back with more after the break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Institute of Engineers in PNG says there needs to be a control on costs involved in constructing roads in the country to avoid cost inflation. The Department of Works' PTB3 division normally sets the rate for costs involved in road construction and has been urged to do more. Following presentations at the Leaders Summit in Leh last month and questions raised in Parliament last week, the Institute of Engineers has again stressed the need for extensive audit on roads in the country.
While appreciating the fact that costs of building roads in PNG are different in many parts of the country, the IEPNG feels there should be a set to rates of plants and equipment.
The PTB3 is an organization that used to keep all the rates of plant and equipment. That was within the Works Department. So you had an organization there that that was responsible for keeping cost of rates of all plant and equipment. And so it actually, when people were putting in their costs for doing work, they would go to the PTB3 to get a rate to do for the operators and equipment.
The set rates are so that contractors can bid competitively. Finkewa says the standard in building roads in PNG is the same, but the cost of roads are over and above what it used to be.
Contractors actually charge a lot. Works department is actually underfunded and is not able to conduct its duties properly. So we can have a control on rates so we can control contractors. Now the contractors come and give a rate and we just accept it because we don't have a mechanism to control the rates. We will stand by and say that yes, roads are inflated.
She added that the arm of the Works Department that sets rates should be more active.
When we talk about rates, we talk about, how much gravel you put in the cubic meter and how much cost per cubic meter, cement cost per machinery using backhoe for how many hours. There's got to be some control over the rates of things like that. So that but mind you, the roads cost will be different, but the standard used is the same standard.
Works Secretary David Were in response said the unit rates are not set by Works Department alone, but it is determined collectively by Works Department and the development partners.
The unit rates we come up with in this department is not the Works Department rates. Unit rates are collectively developed with ADB, with World Bank, with JICA, and many other traditional and reputable partners that we have been working together.
IEPNG's comments come after the suspension of its president, Brian Alois, as Works Regional Manager of Momase after his presentation in Ley during the Leaders' Summit on the inflated cost of roads in PNG. Stacey Yallo, National EMTV News.
Works Secretary David Were says the suspension of Works Engineer Brian Alois is an internal matter. However, Secretary Were urged Mr. Alois to provide facts to his outburst of inflated rates used by the department. Were says the cost of business has changed dramatically and cannot be compared with the past 20 years.
Speaking on behalf of the Works Department, Secretary Were says Mr. Alois had not backed his statement with proper facts surrounding the cost of building and maintaining roads by the Works Department. He says the cost of business has changed as the department adopts to new ways of constructing roads and bridges.
The unit rates we come up with in this department is not the Works Department rates. Unit rates are collectively developed with ADB, with World Bank, with JICA, and many other traditional and reputable partners that we have been working together.
Mr. Alois is an engineer by profession. After coming publicly stating that the government had inflated cost of roadworks, he was removed from his job. The Institute of Engineers in PNG has also voiced concerns for the reinstatement of Mr. Alois. However, Secretary Were is urging Mr. Alois to verify his public statement.
If you are saying, if Mr. Alois is saying that Department of Works is inflating rates, okay, you substantiate so we can tell the whole country that, justify those claims and assertions you are making. Justify those claims.
The Works Secretary says the cost of building a road or bridge in 1980 will never be the same in 2018. Whereas says rates provided and used as guidelines by the department is a collective decision made with development partners and financial institutions. He says the department does not inflate cost with no consideration.
We're not just unnecessarily increasing the cost. Cost comes with the kind of standards you use and the locality and the type of roads you are building. So that is the fact we want to establish. So all of us are on the same page. IPNG, Works Department, TIPNG, the public out there, so that we all get on the same page on the unit rates.
Jack Power Jr., National EMTV News.
The Work Secretary says many factors have been the cause of a major shift in policy frameworks used by the department. While acknowledging the effects of climate change and current economic downturn, Mr. Were says building improved and lasting infrastructure is the way forward for the department. He says variations is no longer an issue for the department and its contractors. Over 200 million kina worth of variation demands has been dismissed by the Works Department.
We can't continue to fall back on the outdated standards of the past. Works is making a lot of change in this department. There used to be issues of variations. Variations are things of the past with the changes we have put in place now. There are a number of important improvements in the standard we have made. We are building weather resilient, fit for purpose. Design standards have now been developed. And there are already bridges out there. You look at the Ankamanga Bridge we have built, the 4-lane at the Laloki Bridge. These are modern infrastructure using improved standards.
Acting Southern Highlands Provincial Administrator Thomas Elu says there is a tug of war going on in the Southern Highlands provinces amongst people who are competing to get money for themselves instead of helping the people. Elu revealed his job as acting administrator is made harder following the disaster as people continue to suffer at the cost of a few who are more interested in money.
The tussle of power in the Southern Highlands province in relation to the provincial administrator's position is really about money.
The problem there in Southern Highlands is about having access to the money back. When you talk about politics, I did my own assignment when I went there. We look at it's not about politics. Politics is only adding fuel into the fire. The province was already divided. There are a lot of empires out there. So when comes election time, that's the opportune time for them to elect their own their own men, to put them as governor, or go sit down inside Lahab so that they can have easy access to the money back. That's the real problem.
Thomas Elu, who was appointed by NEC to be the acting administrator last year for 3 months, is still acting in this position despite his appointment having lapsed in February this year. According to him, one of the conditions to his appointment is to stay in the province until the government appoints a permanent administrator. This has not gone down well with many in the province's capital, Mandi.
No checks will be honored by the bank without my signature at the back. So all is lakai now, all painim hard now. So that may be one of the underlying reasons why I'm a threat to them. Yeah. Go away, because I'm quickly as possible. So I'm kind of thinking with them. There is, they have the right, and the powers to make changes. But I appeal for a good, administrator, whether it be permanent or whoever it is. He must get heart from all people of the Southern Highlands. The province has suffered for too long, over 20 years. This is a free handout mentality here. And people have become lazy, eating scones, Coca-Cola, look like Guru Center, waiting for money to come out of that place.
Elu said his work in cleaning up the province is proving to be a threat to those individuals who want to get their hands on the money.
They are all well connected from the administration right down to the bank. When money goes into the bank, all sabe finish. How much money go when they go long usat. When they vote it sitting, they will start to rush to sign yellow and green forms. Lokari come inside the administration. And in the administration too, they are also part and parcel of this racket. So I'm still, even though I have restored the province, but I'd like to clean it up. Unfortunately, it's a tug-of-war stuff.
The province was hit hard from the 7.5 magnitude earthquake in February and is still struggling to rebuild, and the struggle for power in Mandi town has not helped the situation.
They're playing games in Port Moresby and not realizing the toxic situation in Mandi right now. It just takes a small thing and the whole thing will blow up again. Maybe I stop it inside long disaster, long aftermath, long political, national elections, long 2017. That's the reason why I was appointed by the government to get there. So maybe I know straight in good yet, and then this natural disaster is striking me black. So this all disaster one on top of the other, and the people are very much suffering. And I feel for them. There is no time to play politics. Suppose you may get hot, you may lead a troop along Southern Highlands. The beginning troop along Southern Highlands. I think priority number one is to bring everybody together and let's work as a team to clean that place up.
He called on the government to appoint an administrator who is neutral and fit to clean up the mess in Southern Highlands. Meanwhile, some business and community leaders of Southern Highlands who flew to Port Moresby want Elo to remain as the provincial administrator, as they say he is doing a tremendous job in grinding the public service mechanism and he must continue his work.
Kanjan mani gam lo changing place plongan. Sambla lo sile mimpini sabe finish plongan. Amina nupla mani pla karimika. I'm also now in a time of politics.
Stacey Yellow, National EMTV News.
Stories making headlines overseas. When we come back, stay tuned for details. Welcome back to the news. Turning overseas, the Syrian military operation to retake eastern Ghouta has been internationally condemned. The UN says more than 130,000 civilians have fled the rebel enclave and now many of them live in limbo in makeshift camps. CNN is the first network to speak with survivors of the suspected chemical attack.
And there's definitely something that stings.
These backpacks belong to Malaz and Masaf, 7-year-old twins from Duma. They're a little shy, hesitant. We smelled something, Malaz says. Their mother Nur tells us they remember everything vividly. They were hiding in a basement when the alleged chemical weapons attack in Duma took place. They could barely breathe. She felt her body go limp. She clawed her way up, dragging her daughters. But then the other strikes began. We were between two deaths, she remembers, either from the chemical strikes or the others on the rooftop.
The smell is still quite strong. These are the things that they weren't able to watch yet. And look, that's the toy that her daughter hid away to try to keep her safe. And she would tell the toy, you know, you might suffocate, but at least you'll be safe from the bombing. That's how the kids' minds work. Yesterday they were digging a tunnel for the ants so that the ants wouldn't suffocate, just in case something happened.
In another tent, we meet a boy with a jagged scar running across his abdomen from shrapnel. His uncle, who doesn't want to be identified, was among the worst affected in the family in the chemical strike. He says his blood sample was taken the day before. This new camp is inhabited with those who survived the siege of Duma. It's relentless, months-long bombing that drove families underground, so that something as simple as feeling the sun on their skin was a luxury. Reem and her family thought there was a lull in the bombing and went outside when she says 3 airstrikes slammed right next to them. The next thing she remembers is being in the hospital.
She had just gotten out of surgery in the hospital when the wounded from the chemical strike, she says, began coming in.
The scene was so horrific, she says she forgot her own pain. What she doesn't know, what no one has the heart to tell her, is that her husband is dead. Her son, just 2 years old, is too young to remember his father. The limited US, French, UK strikes may have sent a message to the Syrian regime about chemical weapons, but not about the rest of its arsenal. For those who have endured the unimaginable, it's little more than a move on a gruesome chessboard. 68-year-old Fadzia arrived here 4 days ago from Duma. She has buried too many relatives to count, including her son and 2 grandchildren.
There's nothing left for them. I mean, even if they could go home, there's nothing left.
She says her country has caused her too much pain. And remembering the long-lost days when her family was around her, when they were all alive, when feeling safe wasn't a luxury, it's all just too much.
On Twitter, Donald Trump thanked France and Britain for their help in carrying out the mission. But that's not what the tweet will be remembered for. 2 words, the end of the tweet, raising eyebrows, and those 2 words are mission completed.
It was a sobering message delivered to Syria, backed by U.S. military might.
We are prepared to sustain this response until the Syrian regime stops its use of prohibited chemical agents.
While the Pentagon insists U.S. forces, along with Britain and France, achieved their objectives in striking Syrian chemical weapons targets, it's one of President Trump's tweets that may have misfired. Celebrating the operation, the president tweeted, "A perfectly executed strike last night. Thank you to France and the United Kingdom for their wisdom and the power of their fine military. Could not have had a better result. Mission accomplished." That phrase, mission accomplished, was a flashback to 2003, when then President Bush landed on an aircraft carrier and declared victory in Iraq, a war that continued for 8 more years. Over Bush's shoulder was a banner reading, "Mission accomplished."
Major combat operations in Iraq have ended. In the Battle of Iraq, the United States and our allies have prevailed.
Even Mr. Trump's supporters are cringing. Former Bush press secretary Ari Fleischer weighed in on Mr. Trump's tweet saying, I would have recommended ending this tweet with not those 2 words. Asked about the president's confidence, the Pentagon didn't disagree with the commander-in-chief.
Last night operations were very successful. We met our objectives. We hit the sites, the heart of the chem weapons program. So it was mission accomplished.
Still, on a conference call with reporters, a senior administration official conceded the airstrikes may not have neutralized the chemical weapons threat in Syria, saying if this does not succeed, we will be prepared to act again, which means the age-old questions that come with every U.S. intervention have returned. How does the U.S. define success, and how long will that take? 2 weeks after Mr. Trump raised the prospect of removing U.S. troops from Syria,
I want to get out. I want to bring our troops back home. I want to start rebuilding our nation.
Democrats are raising questions.
I cannot tell you what this administration's policy is towards Syria. 1 week ago, he was talking about entirely pulling out. That ended up appeared to give a green light to Assad, and you saw how Assad took that green light and ran with it in terms of gassing innocents, including women and children.
The other looming question is how to handle Syria's 2 biggest backers, Russia and Iran.
To Iran and to Russia, I ask, what kind of a nation wants to be associated with the mass murder of innocent men, women, and children?
Vice President Pence continued that tough talk at the Summit of the Americas in Peru.
Our message to Russia is you're on the wrong side of history.
President Trump will face more of these questions about Syria next week when he meets with Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe down at Mar-a-Lago. But the president will be splitting his time discussing the fate of another rogue nation with weapons of mass destruction, that is North Korea, another foreign policy crisis with no easy answers.
After the break, another loss for the Hunters, a boost for Peppers, and PNGFA reaffirms John Wesley Gonjuan as acting vice president. Those stories in Trukai Sports when we come back.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. The SP PNG Hunters suffered another loss to the Redcliffe Dolphins yesterday. The Hunters lost 20 points to 6 at Dolphins Stadium.
The Hunters' loss has also seen the Dolphins retain the Stan Joyce Cup. The home side were the first to post points with a penalty goal from Kotoni Stags. The Hunters replied with a try from Junior Rao to put the team on the board. A few minutes later, Hunters were gifted a penalty in front of the Dolphins' uprights. Captain Asya Boas converted it into points to lead 6-2. Hunters' left side defense was outstanding, denying Dolphins chances of scoring. Redcliffe were able to cross over in the 36th minute to regain the lead. They were over for their second try after a brilliant solo effort from halfback Cameron Cullen to lead 14-6 into the break. In the second half, the Dolphins continued to threaten the Hunters' defense, resulting in a try from Tony Tumasa in the 47th minute.
Go 3.
The Hunters tried breaking through the Dolphins' defense but were stopped. They were also denied a try through an obstruction in play. The Dolphins managed to hold on to their lead to win 20 points to 6. Elijah Levet, National EMTV Sports.
Port Moresby Corporate Touch competition played its round 3 matches of the season proper today. The competitions were played in open mix, senior men's and women's, and the masters division.
At the moment we have 20 plus teams, but in each team we have like divisions, seniors, opens and masters. Yeah, so we started our competition on the 4th of March, yeah. So we're into our proposition now. So this is our round 3 of proposition.
With 20 minutes on the clock in the open division, it was IEA against Stanley Hotel. IEA, who was strong defense, were the first to score, but it wasn't long before Stanley Hotel returned the favor to equalize the score 1-1. In the second half, with skills and techniques, IEA had great flow of the ball, managing to slip through the gaps to score 2 more tries. At full time, IEA came out winners 3-1. On field 2, the match between NMSA and Datafix saw a friendly yet competitive game from both teams, with Datafix scoring the first try. Datafix, maintaining a strong defense mechanism, kept NMSA in suspense throughout the first half, with 4 tries to NMSA 0. In the second half, Datafix added 2 more tries, but it was in the remaining 2 minutes that NMSA managed to score their first try. Final score, Datafix 6, NMSA 1.
The top teams at the moment we have On-Track Tribes and Parapella. They're the super teams for their combat. We're also looking at Datafix. They're coming up too. They have their own good players now, new recruitment for this year alone.
In the Masters division, it was a tough match against Datafix and ANZ. Datafix was the first to score. ANZ then equalized. In the second half, Datafix scored 3 more tries, while ANZ trailed behind. In the end, ANZ managed to pull through in the remaining minutes, with the game ending in a draw with 4 points each.
Basically, the touch football is about, it's a family sport. You can just bring anyone in. It's a good, the main idea is to come in, help, you run and be fit, healthy, and live a good life. But basically it's just family sport, where you can see mothers, fathers, children, they play together in, just a game, yeah.
Godwin Eki, National, EMTV Sports.
To netball, the PNG Peppers continue to receive support from various corporate organizations as they prepare for their 2019 World Cup campaign. Accelerator Sports recently supported the national team through its Accelerator X Trainers brand shoe, which is a much-needed attire for the team. Managing Director Anthony Toscano said the company is proud to support the PNG Peppers in their endeavours to qualify for the World Cup and beyond. Chair of Netball PNG, Ms. Julian Leka, said the support has definitely boosted the team's morale and confidence going into this important event. To football, the PNG Football Association Executive Board has reaffirmed their decision on John Wesley Gonjuan as the association's acting president in light of David Chung's resignation. The announcement was made by Gonjuan in a news briefing held at the Gateway Hotel in Port Moresby recently.
In an effort to manage and continue running the business of football in PNG, Papua New Guinea Football Association has made known its intentions to see Senior Vice President John Wesley Gonjuan at the helm of the only FIFA-sanctioned association in the country.
We've affirmed the PNGFA status, which states that as soon as the president of our association resigns or leaves, then the senior vice president becomes the acting president. So during this meeting, we affirmed that, and that is together our stand that we'll be moving forward.
The executive meeting also revealed the plans that PNGFA had in store to improve its management structure, which included the carrying out of the audit to its annual expenditure.
Is to conduct an independent audit on all our financial accounts, and again publish those reports as per the FIFA, OEC, and PNG Olympic Committee requirements.
Other topics included the restoration of other sub-member associations as well as strengthening its current members.
The seventh thing that we discussed was to develop and deploy a PNGFA football development program across all members, focusing on kids between the age of 6 all the way up to 20.
Gonjuan added that PNGFA will also review its current staffing structure to better approach its development goals for football in Papua New Guinea.
We'll also review and conduct an audit into our staffing structure and make necessary change so that we can improve and better develop and deploy football development around the country.
One of the underlying tasks at hand was to develop an efficient approach to effectively run the country's premier domestic competition, the National Soccer League, and manage the national team.
And finally, one of the key things that we discuss and which we will focus on this year and moving forward is to strengthen our national soccer teams, both in youth, men and women, and again in the seniors.
Shane Saroya, National EMTV Sports.
Still to come in Trukai Sports, all the action from the Commonwealth Games. Stay tuned.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome back to Trukai Sports. To the Commonwealth Games, the PNG Pukpuks finished third in their pool at the Gold Coast. They were placed in Pool A with Scotland, South Africa and Malaysia. PNG suffered 2 losses and a win yesterday. The Pukpuks lost to Scotland 27-0 and were thrashed by Sevens Giants 52 points to 0. They were able to steal a win in their last match against Malaysia, beating them 31-5 with tries from Gairo Kopana, Emmanuel Geist, William Tirang and Wesley Vali. In marathon, Games organisers are under fire over athlete safety after a harrowing finish in the men's marathon.
Scotland's Callum Hawkins was on the home straight with the lead of over 2 minutes, but things took a dramatic turn for the 25-year-old. Hard to watch scenes show him struggling with heat exhaustion with no paramedics in sight.
Oh, this is such a shame for Callum Hawkins. His aspirations to become the first Scottish champion for over 50 years are coming to an end in really sad circumstances here.
Hawkins lying in clear distress, with spectators unsure whether to help him. That would mean disqualification. Others taking photos. Medics taking several minutes to reach him and leaving audiences furious. Some feared the worst.
And now it does indeed look as though...
You can't have medical people on every kilometre of the road, so they are professionally positioned. Sometimes medical people arrive too, and the athlete has to make a decision as to whether they want to go on or not. And I understand that was part of a discussion at a point in time.
Australia's Michael Shelley passing the Scot to retain his Commonwealth title.
The Silver Ferns will head home medalless after slumping to their worst ever performance at a major tournament. The 4th place finish topping off a hugely disappointing campaign. And while the players are sticking together, there's a clear lack of confidence in their coach.
This has been a tournament from hell for the Silver Ferns, and for the first time ever, they'll leave a Commonwealth Games empty-handed.
We're physically and emotionally completely drained. Like, we are going to have a week off and just reflect, and probably going to break down tomorrow, but you know what? That means that we've done everything we can to try and make this a successful campaign, which we haven't.
For the 3rd straight time, the Kiwis were outclassed by Jamaica's Sunshine Girls, led by towering goal shooter Janelle Fowler-Reid.
No answers for Fowler-Reid, have they, at the moment?
The Silver Ferns again struggled under the hoop. While they had more attempts on goal, their stats hovered around 70%. Jamaica's were at 85.
We haven't had the right direction over the last few months.
That lack of direction perhaps never more obvious than when they prepared for their final quarter, trailing by 7. Coach Janine Southby hardly looked to be inspiring a late comeback. Her win record as coach is now 51%, the worst in 7 decades. Captain Katrina Grant says that's not good enough.
It's really hard being the captain and having such a poor record, and that's something I need to look at too, but I'm not really sure how much harder I can train, to be fair.
We go through a review process at the end, and so through that process, decisions will be made, but at this stage, I'm not making any calls.
Whatever the review finds, it's clear the players don't ever want to be in this position again.
And we need to learn from this because it's very unpleasant. It's not fun, and we cannot come back to a Com Games or a World Champs and not get a medal because it's not who we are.
The team now head home to try and work out how they can get back to being the winners they used to be.
The New Zealand hockey contingent wrapped up its most successful Commonwealth Games campaign ever, with the men claiming silver last night. Australia is simply too good, on their way to a 6th consecutive title.
Adding a silver shine to New Zealand hockey's medal collection. The men's Black Sticks celebrating with their friends and family late last night, even as they came to terms with some mixed emotions.
I'm super proud of the efforts of the boys. But when I got the boys around in a huddle at the end of the game, I just said, we've got to be honest that not enough of us turned up to play and play well.
In front of a packed house, the Kiwis were simply unable to match favourites Australia on the field.
Loose ball into the circle and slipped over the top of the goalkeeper. New Zealand eventually resorted to pulling off their goalkeeper for an extra player, but to no avail, going down 2-0 for a tough Trans-Tasman loss.
I mean, overall, you got to be happy enough with the campaign, but when you come for a gold medal, you want to win one, so it's a bit disappointing.
It might not be gold, but this does still match the men's best ever performance at a Commonwealth Games, equalling their silver effort in Manchester in 2002.
It's a pretty cool feeling, we won bronze in Delhi, which feels like a long time ago now. So for this group to get a bit of reward is always good, and it shows that we're on the right track.
The future does look bright. Combined with the women's gold, this has been New Zealand hockey's most successful Commonwealth Games campaign ever. That bodes well ahead of the Tokyo Olympics, though one stalwart, a 4-time Com Games veteran, is weighing up his future.
We'll see. The bodies starts to battle a little bit more, but we'll just see how things go. I don't try to make decisions during tournaments.
For now, it's simply time for New Zealand's hockey players to revel in their medal moments.
And that ends Chukai Sports. We'll be back after the break.
Chukai Sports. Chukai Sports.
Welcome back. Now, unfortunately, we are unable to bring you the weather forecast due to employees of the National Weather Service carrying out the nationwide industrial strike. But we hope to bring you the weather forecast tomorrow. Moving on, before we go, our top stories again. Garahu residents want PNG Power to complete maintenance work on a fallen live wire. Acting Southern Highlands Administrator Thomas Elu says struggle for power and money is causing chaos for the province, and PNGFA reaffirms John Wesley Gonjuan as acting president. And that's been Sunday's news. On behalf of the entire EMTV News team, have a pleasant working week. Good night.